Maybe we'll just wait another minute or so and we can get started.
All right, and while we're waiting, Bill, just wanted to remind everybody that this is being recorded.
Okay, all right, so let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Distinguished Alumni Award portion of ECE Day. I hope everyone has had a great day so far. First off, I want to thank our amazing student organizations for their incredible efforts in organizing ECE Day today. And I would like to particularly thank our 5 student organizations, the IEEE Student Org, Eta Kappa Nu, our Undergraduate Student Council, and our Project in a Box team, and our ACM student organization for all of their efforts in creating this amazing day. I think our student organizations are really the crown jewel of our department, and they are really the reason, they are really what makes ECE great. So I wanted to thank them for all of their efforts in organizing today. I also want to thank our incredible ECE staff for their efforts as well in organizing today's event. And particularly, I'd like to thank Chelsea for all of her incredible efforts. She spent a lot of time working with the student orgs on this event. And then finally, I would like to thank our ECE Alumni Board for organizing our ECE Distinguished Alumni Awards. And in particular, I would like to thank our Alumni Board President, Hamna. I see Hamna is here. Our Alumni Board member, True, for his incredible efforts in this awards. And also I want to thank Professor Nguyen for leading the Alumni Board as our faculty advisor. So thank you everyone for your efforts in making today possible, and also in organizing this Distinguished Alumni Awards. So for the next hour or so, we'll first have the pleasure of Professor Henry Pfister from Duke University to give us a keynote talk. Henry was our Distinguished Alumni winner from last year, and we're absolutely delighted to have him join us today to give a talk. And then after Henry's talk, I will introduce our 3 Distinguished Alumni Award winners this year, and they will say a few words. So great, next slide, please. Yeah, great. So onwards to the keynote talk. Henry, thank you for joining today. It is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Henry Pfister to you as our keynote speaker today. And as I mentioned, Henry was our 2020 ECE Distinguished Alumni recipient last year. And so it's great to have Henry here today. Henry was an undergraduate student at UCSD from 1990 to 1995 with a bachelor's degree in physics. After his undergraduate degree, he spent a couple of years working in the booming wireless industry in San Diego before returning back to UCSD in electrical and computer engineering to do his PhD in 1997. Professor Paul Siegel, that I see here today, was Henry's thesis advisor. And after Henry graduated with his PhD in ECE in 2003, he spent a couple of years at EPFL in Switzerland and at Qualcomm before joining the faculty at the Texas A&M University, where he remained until 2014. And then after Texas A&M, he joined Duke University, where he's currently a professor in electrical and computer engineering. Henry also holds a secondary appointment in the mathematics department as well. And during Henry's career, he has received numerous awards and distinctions. And I'm just going to list a few, but this is by no means exhaustive. His awards and distinctions including the NSF Career Award, the Outstanding Professor Award, the IEEE ComSoc Best Paper Award, and the Best Paper Award at the Symposium of Theory of Computation. So this is just a short list, but there are a number of other distinctions. We have the pleasure of having Henry give our talk, and so I will transfer to him to give his talk. Henry?
Thanks a lot, Bill. Let me share my screen and see if I can make this work. All right, can people see my slides? And
Yep, looks good.
all right, great. So thanks a lot, Dr. Lin, for the kind introduction, and thanks to everyone for your attention today. Seeing everyone at UCSD makes me think back to my college years, which, as you saw, is all 10 of them at UCSD. So I enjoyed them all, but it was a while. And before I go on, I would also like to thank the selection committee for this invitation. I think it's really quite an honor, and I do appreciate it. And I'd also like to briefly describe my background. Since I feel for things like this, I'd like to give undergraduate and graduate students in the audience some idea of how I got to UCSD. And so I grew up in Torrance, California, and spent a fair amount of time at the beach, surfing, playing volleyball, sailing. I also became interested in computers when my dad brought home an Apple II Plus in 1979. And I immediately got hooked on games like Lemonade Stand and Little Brick Out. Of course, anybody who knows what I'm talking about is officially old school at this point. There may be a few in the audience, but I'm assuming the undergraduates don't know what I'm talking about. I had chose to attend UCSD both for its reputation and its geography. It was close to the beach and just far enough away from my home in close to Los Angeles. So it was a great fit. And for my major, it was really difficult for me to decide between physics and computer science because I was interested in both topics when I arrived. But physics triumphed in the end, perhaps due to my appreciation of UCSD's annual watermelon drop, which I was always there for. And I always appreciated the way the physics department managed to make it as an excuse to throw a watermelon up a tall building, calling it a physics experiment. But that was always fun. So what do I want to convey to you today? What I really want to convey is that ECE is an exciting area to be working in right now. And it's exciting because technology continues to advance at an extremely rapid pace. So the computer I use now executes instructions 50,000 times faster than the Apple II Plus I had 40 years ago. And it has 1 million times more RAM. And only 15 years after I started playing games in the Apple II, the multiplayer game Doom was released, and my roommates and I set up our first computer network in order to play with each other. So, and now children build massive 3D worlds together in Minecraft even before they can read. I have nephews who are learning to read, but they can do almost anything in Minecraft. And so I think there's just been this pace of change that's been really, really impressive over this time period. More seriously, the infrastructure for creating software is now excellent. Considering Linux, GitHub, Python, and the many cloud services, complicated applications can be created with relative ease. Here I'm showing a snippet of Python code that defines a neural network using the Keras library. So we can see now that something this short can define a very complicated process and build it into training, all these things. And this infrastructure, this ability to use Python or pip to install things and really do things quickly, I think has greatly accelerated the pace of change. And these computational tools have enabled advances in nearly all areas of study, not really just computer science, because people use them throughout many areas of study. Now, this begs the question for me, what kind of progress will be made in the next 40 years? So fusion was promised in the 1970s, but it never materialized. Now, many predict there will be a successful fusion power experiments within 10 years. This graphic shows the International Tokamak Reactor that is expected to go online in 2025. So I think we're in this age where these things, some things that we've been waiting for a long time are starting to happen. And one of the reasons they're starting to happen is really this rapid growth in computing, this ability to do so many things in simulation and to do so much computing to make things work. Now, recent amazing progress in machine learning also has some people predicting that, we'll have general AI. Excuse me. In 20 years or so. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I'm very interested to kind of see what happens. I think this is an exciting time to see what's going to happen with new technologies, and being a part of it, working in ECE, makes this an exciting time. It's difficult to say what is impossible, for the dream of yesterday is the hope of today and the reality of tomorrow. I think this quote by Robert Goddard captures the essence of this era and really what I wanted to communicate. And the thing about it is that in many ways, all of the things that are changing are related to ECE. Now, many areas, of course, the tokamak reactor is very much related to physics. And many of the things I will talk about are clearly related to other areas of science. But a lot of them, ECE plays an important role. Now I want to talk about some of the breakthroughs I've witnessed so far in my life. So the one I'm most familiar with is channel coding via error correcting codes. This is the art of adding redundancy to a message in order to make it more robust against noise. It is used in cell phones and hard drives because noise and errors are unavoidable in these systems. It is also the main subject of my PhD. Here is a timeline of important milestones in channel coding. It starts with a mathematical result by Claude Shannon in 1948 that shows error correcting codes can provide reliable communication up to a certain limit called channel capacity. Unfortunately, his approach did not provide a practical recipe to achieve this. In this figure, the exact details are not important. The key point is the rapid advance from 1948 to 1960. But then there was a pause in theoretical progress on the original question. So in some sense, it's not clear if people stopped working on that question and were busy with other things, or if they just stopped making progress. But from 1960 to 1995, lots of engineers were building communication systems such as cell phones, Wi-Fi, and the internet. In fact, I saw Anton Monk here as another person receiving an award. He started a company building communication systems during this time period. And so lots of things were happening, but these systems weren't able to approach the fundamental limits promised by Shannon. And researchers began to even wonder if it was possible to achieve these limits in practice. But it turns out it was. In 1993, there was a breakthrough called turbo codes, which started a series of new understanding in this topic, which allowed us to eventually approach and achieve the fundamental limits promised by Shannon. And only 10 years after this breakthrough, or 10 years or so, these things were in many systems. So now everybody has a cell phone in their pocket, which uses modern codes. It uses turbo codes and LDPC codes, and it's really permeated the whole thing. So we've seen that this progress from Shannon's original theorem in 1948 until sometime in the early 2000s, this was quite a long period, but eventually we got there. And I think now that I've been doing engineering for some time, I realize that this is often how it goes, that progress comes in fits and starts. And if something really is possible, we'll eventually get there, but we may not get there as quickly as we thought we would. When I chose to stay in San Diego for my PhD, since I had done my undergraduate at UCSD and I was still living in San Diego, I didn't really understand how strong UCSD was in information theory. I had studied physics. I'd been working at a communications company, so I knew there were well-known professors there. But as an undergraduate, I don't think you're as aware of ranks of professors and international reputation and such things. And so my advisor joined the faculty in 1995. And then I joined as a PhD student in 1997. And Alon Orlitsky joined the faculty the same year I did. And I should note Ilana Orlitsky will receive this year's top honor in information theory, the 2021 Orlitsky will receive this year's top honor in information theory, the 2021 Shannon Award. And along with Jack Wolf, these 3 ECE professors were on my PhD committee. Alex Vardy joined in 1998. Ken Zieger and Pam Cosman arrived a few years earlier. And Larry Milstein, Bhaskar Rao, and Ramesh Rao have been here since before the dawn of time. So that's 9 professors whose work is connected to information theory. And the breadth of their knowledge really provided an incredible foundation for my training in this area. I didn't necessarily realize it at the time, but having so many different people teach you their point of view about a subject is really beneficial. I would also like to mention my great lab mates who are always, as Paul will remember, exceedingly fun guys and gals to hang out with in the lab. So, all right, but now I should get back to the main point of this talk. I want to talk about breakthroughs that I've witnessed. And so many of these you've also witnessed. Everybody here may be aware of different areas of research or have areas of research they follow closely. Neural networks are a class of parameterized functions that can be trained to approximate any function. And this figure shows a fully connected neural network with 3 inputs, 2 outputs, and 2 hidden layers. Neural networks are also a key element behind the first machine learning algorithms to surpass human performance on perceptual cognition tasks. This figure is from the paper that defined the breakthrough deep neural network called AlexNet, which won the 2012 ImageNet classification challenge by 10 percentage points. It illustrates the top 5 outputs on some images that were selected from the test set. In the top row, we see images where it's successful, where the label, which is shown in the top thing, matches the outputs. And so the 5 lines show the rough, how much does the neural network think it is of each thing. So for example, for a leopard, the neural network is quite sure it's a leopard. The bottom row shows things where it didn't get it right. For example, on the bottom right, we have a Madagascar cat, which is labeled as a squirrel monkey. And of course, you and I would never make such a silly mistake and label that Madagascar cat as a squirrel monkey, but this shows the level of neural networks. And people will argue about this. Some people say it beat human level classification. Of course, that depends on the human. Some people will say this occurred a little earlier or a little later. And here we see a rough timeline of the progress of machine learning and neural networks, starting in the 40s and ending in 2012 with this AlexNet paper. And what I want to point out here is that the amount of time it took and the other things going on. So back in the 1940s, this is almost predates radar, right? And people are coming up with circuits to model artificial neurons. And in some cases, they're thinking, oh, we have this great thing. We're gonna, it's only Wiener, when he discovered, in some sense, closed loop feedback control, immediately said, oh, robots are going to take over the world, because that was like his almost his first thought if you read his papers. And he may be right, but it didn't happen nearly as fast as people might expect. And we see through here that there's fits and starts. And in particular, on this graph, the snowflakes represent what people call AI winters, 2 periods of time where people, because all those neural networks, we tried those, they don't really work. They don't really do what people say they do. And so interest was lost for various reasons. But in the end, there was a lot of evidence throughout that they might do something great, and people persisted and they got there. And now we're at this point where they really are outperforming humans on many tasks, but we're not all the way there. So I don't think, in 40 years when somebody makes this same talk, I don't think it's going to stop in 2012. I still think there's a long ways to go, and there's multiple breakthroughs left in this area. And I'm excited to kind of be working in ECE and to watch them, perhaps participate in them and see them happen, because I think this is what makes this time exciting. Now I'll mention some areas whose breakthroughs I hope to witness in my lifetime. History suggests that if I do witness these, it will be because there are lots of people working on them consistently over many years. In that case, the occurrence of breakthroughs almost becomes a certainty. But the details of who, what, and when are essentially impossible to predict. In the case of quantum computing, I'm again fortunate. Duke has recently hired a number of excellent professors working on quantum computing. Before this, I had very little knowledge of quantum computing, but since reliable quantum computing is expected to require error correcting codes, and that's my area of expertise, I've begun collaborating with them, and I'm trying to apply my expertise to this interesting problem. I'll also mention fusion power once more, because if successful, its impact on the real world, as opposed to this academic world where we focus on error correcting codes and neural networks, could be enormous. So this is something that's going to impact everybody. I'll also warn you that my knowledge of fusion power is really quite limited. Most of my knowledge comes from reading popular articles for laymen, but I realize that now many of the problems that have been plaguing it for a long time are starting to be understood, perhaps because of the massive power of simulations and computers and the ability that's developed over the last 30 or 40 years to really bring stronger tools to bear on such problems. Now, so far I've mentioned what I would say are a few high-profile areas. But what if you don't work in a high-profile area? In reality, science is very dependent on traditional areas of ECE, such as signal processing, computer architecture, power engineering, semiconductor fabrication. For example, it's not even clear if the success of deep learning in the late 2010s should be credited to massive new ideas in machine learning or to the massive speed up achieved by GPUs. There's some people who say if we take a GPU and we go back to the same techniques that were being used 10 years earlier and just wait long enough, we get similar performance. Of course, many of the techniques that came out have made it work better, and we've optimized it. So there's been real progress in theory as well, but it's not always true that that's what's required. Something from some other area might be required to push us over the hump. In short, I believe that progress in traditional areas of ECE and computer science has and will be a key driver in the rapid pace of technological advance that I've witnessed so far in my lifetime. Now, I did want to mention briefly some of the areas I'm currently working on. So one area of current interest for me is machine learning for communications. Machine learning can be applied to many areas, and I'm particularly interested in applying it to the area where I'm an expert. And so in work with my former postdoc, Christian Hager, we show that performance versus complexity gains are possible for fiber optic communications by, in some sense, taking the equalizer you would normally use for fiber optic communications, turning it into a deep neural network, and then re-optimizing. And this is an interesting thing because actually, one place that the model of fiber optic communications is called the nonlinear Schrodinger equation. And one place that neural networks are making very general inroads is in the solution of complicated partial differential equations. So it turns out that solving partial differential equations is ubiquitous across science and engineering, but representing the solutions is very hard. And in a lot of cases, neural networks are going to allow this to occur so that progress in many parts of science can move forward, allowing the solution of things that just wasn't possible before. Another area is the intersection between quantum and classical information theory. It turns out that many classical information theory problems have quantum mechanical dual problems with interesting theoretical properties. In work with my former student, Narayanan Rangaswamy, we study a belief propagation algorithm that passes quantum measurements in order to surpass the classical limit of detection. This is also something that's coming about now. With quantum computers, there's the idea of factoring large integers using Shor's algorithm. But there's actually many simpler things you can do with a quantum computer, or even very limited quantum computers related to detection and communication that might be possible well before we have general purpose quantum computers. In conclusion, it's a very exciting time to follow technology and to work in electrical and computer engineering. I expect many amazing breakthroughs in the next 30 years. And I didn't even have time to mention robotics, self-driving cars, and trips to Mars. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much, Henry, for the incredible talk. Yay. So maybe we have time for a few questions. Anybody have any questions for Henry? I have one. We have a number of our students in the audience, and you mentioned a lot of very exciting, breakthroughs that are happening now, machine learning and breakthroughs that you hope to see, quantum computing and fusion power. If you have to give an advice to our students in terms of, in their final year in our program, or continue learning after they graduate, what would you advise them in terms of where they maybe can learn more, spend more time about learning certain areas so that they're better prepared for these future breakthroughs?
So that's a very good question. I actually got advice from a physics professor at UCSD, Professor Swanson, when I was near graduation. And he had worked on particle physics and talked about the fact that he started in that area right as it was blossoming. That was huge. And I do think, people will tell you don't chase the current fad. And I kind of agree with that. But if you're interested in, if you have an interest in quantum computing, now is a time where you can actually participate, and it's like very likely a growth area. So like there will be new, people will be interested in this. There's at least a lot of research. If we're lucky, then there will actually be production and industrial interest afterwards. So I don't know that I would just chase fads, but places where there's a lot of room, a lot of potential are things I would focus on. Myself, when I got into coding, was right at the time when these breakthroughs started occurring in coding. I picked it because they had this new algorithm that seemed to work great and nobody understood why. And so I found that very intriguing. And I think I would in some sense recommend that. On the other hand, all the basic areas of ECE are going to have massive improvement over the next 20 to 40 years. It's not like computer architecture is going to be stagnant, right? So I don't think you can pick any area that's going to be stagnant and flat. And the reason for that is just as other areas improve, they cause changes around them. So there will be a whole branch of computer architecture that focuses on quantum computing. It's really closer. It focuses less on the quantum and more on the architecture. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, even in what I'd say is well-established areas.
Thank you. Very, very, very interesting. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Well, great. I learned a lot in your talk, so thank you very much. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. So let's move on to the next part of our session, where we're going to introduce this year's Distinguished Alumni Award winners. And Stephanie, can you put up the slide? So great. So we have 3 alumni, Distinguished Alumni Award winners, and I think we were thinking initially to try to select distinguished alumni from the different areas of ECE that we cover. ECE today is a very broad discipline. And we thought roughly there's a certain branch of ECE that's really dealing with applied mathematics. So this is the information theory, application of a lot of great mathematics in a lot of the breakthroughs we've seen. We have a number of areas in our department that deals with really the application of physics, or advances in physics in a lot of the breakthroughs that we see. And we also see areas within our department that are really much more application driven, much more about building systems and bringing together the various fundamental technologies and fundamental mathematics. But I think as you'll see shortly when we introduce our winners this year, really all 3 of our incredible alumni winners have made substantial contributions in all 3 areas. So what might have started out to be sort of trying to identify distinguished alumni in different branches of ECE, I think in the end you'll agree with me that all of our distinguished alumni have made amazing contributions in all areas. So I would like to introduce our 3 Distinguished Alumni Award winners this year, one by one, and give each of them a chance to maybe say a few words. So I'll start off with Anton. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's my pleasure to first introduce Anton Monk as one of our distinguished alumni winners this year. Anton did his undergraduate and PhD work in ECE at UCSD. He received his bachelor's degree in 1989, and he continued onwards and received his PhD in 1994. Professor Larry Milstein, I think I see Larry in the audience, was Anton's thesis advisor. And if I remember correctly, Anton, your thesis was on CDMA. So Anton has had an incredible career. He's currently the Vice President of Business Development and Strategy at Viasat. And I think everybody knows Viasat. Before Viasat, Anton served in numerous executive roles. Anton was the president of Vertex Strategies, which was a company dealing with 5G technology. He was also the vice president of technology strategy, business development and partnership at XCOM Labs. And XCOM Labs develops innovative wireless technologies in 5G verticals, such as industrial robotics and automation, augmented reality, virtual reality, and so forth. And he was also previously the vice president of strategic alliances and standards at Cohere Technologies, which developed a groundbreaking wireless modulation technique for next generation 5G wireless communications. So you can see that Anton has been sort of a key player in 5G for many years now. And Anton was also the co-founder of Entropic Communications, which became a publicly traded company, and served as his vice president and chief technology officer. So among Anton's many achievements, he holds more than 25 US granted patents, and he currently serves on our Dean's Council of Advisors at the Jacobs School of Engineering, our ECE Industrial Advisory Board, and the Gordon Leadership Center Board. And Anton has also received a number of awards, including a San Diego Business Journal Entrepreneur of the Year finalist and the Connect Most Innovative Product Award in telecommunications. So congratulations, and maybe Anton, you can say a few words. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Bill. Nice to see you, Paul and Larry. It's been a while, and Trong. Yeah, thank you very much. I don't have anything really prepared from a slide point of view, but just thanks again to Trong and you, Bill, for suggesting this. It's a very nice honor. Actually, I want to thank the whole ECE department at UCSD. I spent many years there. All the incredible professors that gave me, I think, the critical theoretical underpinnings of engineering that formed the basis of a lot of what I did in my career, especially Larry, who I was lucky enough to have as a professor, both in undergrad and as my advisor for my graduate work. And just briefly, I mean, I came here from South Africa when I was 19, so I really didn't know anybody here. Came straight to UCSD. I should mention, Henry, that my first computer was an Apple II Plus as well. So that was very exciting for me to see that picture. And spent a lot of my time playing games on that also, that my parents brought from the US. So I think I was the only person in South Africa at that time to have an Apple II Plus when it first came out. Very exciting. And I guess another thing we share in common is that I did spend way too much time playing Doom. Unfortunately, that was actually at the first company I worked at here. I worked at JPL for a while and I did my master's at Caltech, but I came back to UCSD. I really loved it here. And at Comstream, the first company I worked at, we used to play some of these network games and take down the network. The IT guys were not too happy with us. We had to get the VP of engineering to step in and say it was okay for us to do that after hours. I don't think that's a problem anymore with the bandwidth of networks that they have now. But I will say that UCSD was really the primary focus of my life for what still feels like many years, about 7 of my first 9 years in the US. And I think that's why I have such a strong relationship to the university and to the engineering school in particular. And then just briefly, most of my career has been in various startups. Comstream, which was actually a Linkabit spinoff, for this probably the most storied company in telecommunications pretty much in the world, I think. Maybe rivaling Bell Labs. People on the East Coast might say that. And
and that's really where I got to put this comm theory background, very similar to Henry's, to work. And as Bill mentioned, I started Entropic, and I don't think I could have done that without the theoretical underpinnings, like I said, the foundations that I learned from Professor Milstein and others. And so I think as a result of all of this, I've maintained this strong connection. I'm very happy, proud to say that I made it my focus to hire a lot of UCSD students. It wasn't a big company. I think we did grow through acquisitions to several hundred, but at one time, I think we had 17 UCSD interns through the TIP program, through the corporate affiliates program. And we really we had a huge breadth of disciplines that we covered, from comm theory, network theory, VLSI, software, hardware, RF systems, RFIC engineering, and even testing was a critical piece of what we did. So, all of this, after that, I was in various 5G startups. And again, the theoretical learnings were critical to trying to explain to academics and industry what we were doing at these various companies, like some of the modulation theory that we developed at a company called Cohere Technologies, called OTFS, and then all this autonomous robotics stuff. So I'm currently at Viasat. It's a feel-good piece to this as well, because I'm helping to bring satellite broadband to some of the 3 billion unserved rural areas of the world. So, it's not all about 5G and cool stuff like quantum computing, although we have probably the most advanced satellite network in the world at Viasat. But at the end of the day, it's about what are the services that you're bringing. So this feels a little bit better, I suppose, than Entropic, when we help people watch more TV and sit on their couches. Here we're actually helping to change people's lives. It's what a lot of third world countries, so to speak, call the social good. And that's really, that's what we can do with the ECE background that we have. I think that's really neat that, you can bring entertainment to people, but you can bring life-changing broadband connectivity to people as well. So I think, that's about it. I love being part of UCSD and giving back to the school. I'm probably not as involved with the Alumni Association as I should be, so you can all shame me for that. But I have been very involved with the Corporate Affiliates Program, internship programs, Industrial Advisory Board, Dean's Council of Advisors, the Board and Leadership Center. And the only relief I've gotten is that because of COVID, we haven't had in-person meetings. So it's been a little bit easier to balance all of those. So that's it. Thank you. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. And to all the students here, good luck. If you have any interest in Viasat and are applying for anything there, let me know. I'll put in a good word for you. Viasat also, because of the 2 out of the 3 founders actually came from UCSD. We've had an incredibly strong connection to the university. And I'm trying to continue to keep that going and make sure that we continue to do that. So thanks again.
Thank you very much, Anton. And I want to just thank you for your active involvement with UC San Diego for all these years. And so definitely as an alumni, not only have you had a lot of distinguished accomplishments, but I think we really appreciate your active involvement, including the ECE Industrial Advisory Board. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I don't know who this guy is on the screen though.
Okay.
I don't think Larry would recognize me anymore.
All right, Stephanie, can you advance to the next slide, please? Okay, so next is my pleasure to introduce to our second winner, Joya Messinger. So Joya received her bachelor degree from UCSD in 1984. And since UCSD, Joya has been a serial entrepreneur who loves creating great products with great people. And she's been a founder of numerous companies. She is currently the founder and principal of Linked Object Incorporated, which is a company that develops a technology and business strategy firm specialized in digital transformations that are brought about by Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. So really, really at the right place, at the right time. She was also the founder and CEO of AVAC Arlo, which defined the home video monitoring category and changed the way you watch, your life, monitor yourself from anywhere. And Arlo's the #1 DIY DIY smart home security system in the market today with 48% of the market share. Among other companies she has founded include Summit Design Technologies and MedSmarts. So among the products that she contributed towards is the development of the PillCam, which is a revolutionary wireless diagnostic product and one of the first wireless ingestible health products ever conceived. So her products have won numerous awards, including a CES Innovation Award, Popular Science 100 Best Innovation of the Year Award, and her work, her products have appeared in numerous publications, including the New York Times, the Times, Wall Street Journal, and Business Week. And she's an inventor of over 15 patents. And she also serves as the director on a number of public as well as private corporate boards. And like Anton, Joya has been very active as an alumni, and she currently serves on the Jacobs School Dean's Council of Advisors. So Joya, you want to say a few words?
Thank you so much, Bill, and everyone present. I want to thank the Jacobs School faculty and alumni board for granting me this award. As a woman and entrepreneur in STEM, this means a ton to me, so thank you very much. UCSD has provided me with a great education and prepared me to think through a bunch of problems and decompose them in various ways. Just like Anton, I was not born here. I was born in Bolivia, came to UCSD as an undergrad at 17. And 10,000 miles and very far away, but hey, I made it. I was fresh off the boat when I came to UCSD, and somebody asked me where I was from, and I said Bolivia, and they said, Bolivia, where is that? And I said, well, it's in South America. And they go, oh, we are in South America. Little did I realize that, hey, to everyone, San Diego is probably one of the southernest points in the US. So everybody thought I was from South America. I was already here. So anyway, I had a great education. I also played sports at UCSD, which contributed a ton to I think what I did later in life. My career started when I interned at Solar Turbines. So as you land at San Diego Airport, you see Solar Turbines. That was one of the buildings that I was in right off as an intern. And then I joined the controls group at Solar many years ago. And I was the only female engineer in a group of 50. I won't tell you jokes about the test cells or anything like that, but there was a lot of stuff that was crazy in those days that you wouldn't see today. But a few years after that, I joined a startup that was called SciTech, which was a Linkabit spinoff also. And that provided me with the freedom to, an opportunity to thrive in a small engineering environment and lead my own team. It was pretty amazing what they let me do in that company. I mean, they basically said, "Here, have at it," and I went and did a bunch of customer discovery and talked to customers and came up with a product. And essentially, with a small team, we took it to market. And after that, it gave me the resilience and confidence to go out on my own. And I've been an entrepreneur kind of pretty much ever since. Funny story, my boss at SciTech became my partner when we started Avant. And then, I originally worked for him, and then he worked for me, and that's kind of how long relationships in technology kind of work. San Diego is a relatively small technology environment, and pretty much everybody knows each other, and that kind of it's helped me all along in my career. So I started, after doing a bunch of different things, I started AVAC, which now is called Arlo, which is the #1 wireless video security company in the world. We developed the first wireless battery operated, basically IoT system, a video IoT system. And that happened as a consequence of my former co-founder and I working on the first pill cam, which was a very interesting and incredible medical innovation. We worked on the pill cam when CMOS imaging first started, and we developed the 430 megahertz radio for the pill cam here in San Diego. The company was based in Israel. We were based here in San Diego, and we developed the wireless, the radio plus all the protocol around it and the antenna technology. That was all done here by a very small group of people. And the consumer version of the pill cam, which was Arlo, kind of came as a consequence of us working originally on the pill cam. The pill cam was a very small battery operated camera that you swallow and takes pictures of your intestines. And Arlo was, what else could we do with ultra low power wireless technology and ultra low power imaging technology? And we thought that there was a really interesting combination that we could utilize for placing cameras pretty much anywhere in your home or business. And up until that point, all cameras were wired, and all cameras were wired because they needed power. And power was at 18 inches from the floor. And where do people want cameras in their home? They don't want them at 18 inches. They want them up in the ceiling or outside by their front door. And we needed to create a brand new protocol, and we made a decision not to develop a radio in that case. We developed it on a 2.4 megahertz radio that already existed. But the innovation was all about, shutting things off and figuring out when to turn things on so that the batteries wouldn't get consumed. It was very similar to the pill cam in the sense that the pill cam also had an interesting way of life inside your body. So it lasted for 10 hours, and it was actually strobing every 2 seconds, the original pill cam was. So there was a lot of innovation, not just in the radio antenna technology and also protocols, but in figuring out how to make things extremely power efficient. So we sold Arlo. It became a very famous public company, and now everybody can buy Arlos in Best Buys or Costco's or wherever. But I also worked on the first cable modem when I was consulting for a company called General Instruments, which was kind of in a way also a Linkabit spinoff. So everything started from Linkabit in San Diego. So I've done a lot of different products and worked on a variety of different companies, and fortunately enough, have worked on amazing innovations. So my work with UCSD, I was an EIR, an executive or entrepreneur in residence, chancellor appointed for a while. I worked with IGE, the Institute for the Global Entrepreneur, and I'm on the Dean's Council. So happy to help anybody with career decisions or getting internships or whatever. And I'll leave you with this thought. For me, being resilient, don't taking no for an answer, and being prepared to pivot, as well as just moving fast and breaking things, has worked out really well. So, just follow your passion and just keep going, keep moving. This is an amazing journey that you'll have with this type of background, and I'm sure that there's going to be fantastic horizons for everybody on the call. So thank you.
Thank you so much for all the insights. I have to say, I heard about the PillCam quite some time ago, and it's only until recently did I realize that you're the inventor or the developer of that cool idea. I just remember when I first heard about the idea, I thought it was really, really cool. So thank you. Stephanie, next slide, please. Okay, so so my pleasure to introduce to our third winner, Russ Byrne. Russ is not here today, but I will nonetheless introduce you to him. So Russ received his Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical Engineering from UC San Diego in 1985. And he's worked for many companies since he graduated. And it seems that for every company he's worked for, he has won some kind of award. So let me just sort of go through some of them. So after receiving his bachelor degree from UC San Diego, he spent a number of years working for a Fairchild space company, and at Fairchild he won the Fairchild Scholar Award. He went on to get his master's degree from University of Maryland at College Park. But while earning his master's degree, he worked for NASA for a while. And at NASA, he received the NASA Group Achievement Award, which is an award given to him for leading a task to deploy an advanced bandwidth management system, which is sort of in the networking area. That supported deep space networks and flight customers. In addition to working for Fairchild and NASA, he also spent a number of years working for the Jet Propulsion Laboratory as a senior network engineer, and there he won the JPL Spot Award. He's worked for a number of other companies, including a company called Netagy, where he spent a number of years working on network infrastructure performance, and he won the Netagy Summit Award from there as well. And he spent a number of years working for several other companies. He's currently a solutions integration architect at Cisco Systems. And we are very proud to have him as our distinguished alumni winner as well this year. So I think we're very fortunate to have incredible alumni, and I'm really thankful for Anton and Joya for your what you've shared with the group. I think I'm personally very proud of your achievements and in the way you represent us in the world, and also serving as a role model to our students, and as well as for all your continued active involvement with us in our various advisory boards. So thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you.
Thanks, Bill. Okay,
so great. I think this is sort of wrapping up our session today on ECE Distinguished Alumni Award. I hope, Anton and Joy, you can continue to be actively involved with us. Perhaps you can join us again next year. I'll be reaching out to you for things, maybe as a speaker as well. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining today. And I want to thank all the student organizations and our staff, as well as our alumni board for organizing ECE Day and this event. And thank you very much.
Excuse me, Professor Lin, before we go, could I say a few words, please?
Please, sorry.
Well, I wanted to just echo what Professor Lin said. Thank you everyone for coming, and congratulations to all the alumni award winners, distinguished alumni award winners. And I just wanted to, especially thank the ECE department, and special shout out to Chelsea for putting up with all my last minute requests. But also I have a few announcements to make to the students who attended this. But before I do that, Ashwin and Branson, would you guys like to say anything?
No, I think you've said everything. Again, thank you guys all thank you to the speakers. It was great to hear from you. Thank you to everyone for coming to this event, and to ECE Day for helping make ECE Day as a whole possible. It was great to be working with the committee and the department on this. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then just ditto that.
Okay, just two announcements real quick. So for the people that have been attending the ECE Day event since the morning, you are probably aware of the raffles that we are having, where you get like as many raffle tickets as the amount of different events you attend, and then you can split up the events as you want. So you can actually get a raffle ticket for this event as well. The link is in the chat. And in addition, after this, we will be moving over to Discord, like the ECE UCSD Discord, where we will be hosting the game night, the fun stuff section of ECE Day. And that's also where we will be announcing all the winners to the raffle. So the Discord link I have also sent in the chat. So thank you. Thank you for coming.
And Sarp, I want to thank you for chairing the ECE Day event. And
technically, it wasn't me. Technically, it was Branson who was the chair.
Branson, Ashwin, I want to thank all three of you for all your efforts. This is incredible. And as I said earlier today, you guys are the crown jewel, and you guys are the reason that you guys are what make ECE great.
You guys flatter me too much.
Okay, with that, okay, any more other announcements?
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
Pretty much it.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Bill.
Yeah. See you guys on the Discord for the students.
Paul.
Bye.